This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome, my friends, to the Thursday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. This is the fastest hour in American media, and you're going to have to put on your belts today, the seat belts, whatever restrains you in, because there is so much. I thought this was going to be a somewhat... There are no easy news days in the Trump years. They're just not. But I thought this was just going to be the routine fire hose day. It has turned into so much more than that. Before, in the wee hours of the afternoon, late morning, my nephew, TJ, pointed to me that Joe Rogan had a 2-hour podcast with Kash Patel. And some of the things that were discussed in there were quite amazing, especially what's going on with fentanyl, what's going on Russiagate, the media complicity, political bias with the still defunct Russiagate story, and on and on and on. It was like, okay, maybe we can dig into a little of that. Nope, gonna have to wait. I thought that perhaps we would get to some of the other things in the news at Los Angeles and some of these other places, New York, where protests have broken out. And, of course, there are going to be more protests this weekend. And there is an organized effort to disrupt the entire country, many cities in the country, this weekend. We may have time to get into some of that. As we were in the last hour of the program, came news. Saw a little post. What is this? There's a presser being held out in Los Angeles, Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem speaking, and all of a sudden you hear this interruption, and this yelling, can't quite make out what it was, and you see a guy being dragged out of there for apparently trying to disrupt the press conference. Well, lo and behold, it was a United States senator. It was the senator, one of the senators from California, Alex Padilla, who's a showboat, who's just anyway, he was removed. She's doing a press conference. She's answering or speaking to reporters. A press conference, not a briefing for legislative briefing, which was supposed to, by the way, happen later. But a presser, and he interrupts this presser. We have the audio of what it sounded like. That would be 22. And this is what it sounded like in Los Angeles with Senator Padilla being removed from the proceedings.
Guys, ready? And bell. Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla.
Now you
I
hear
have
her in the
questions
background.
for the secretary, because the fact of the matter is, a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your. Hands up!
Get your hands up! Get out here! They're dragging him out of the room. Get on the ground!
Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
Other hand!
Get in my hands. Go ahead. Put them behind my back.
All right. Cool. Good hand. Lay flat. Lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
Now, we could go on. That's as much as you... somebody, by the way, says, we're being recorded here. Yeah. Now, let me just point out something. If you saw Alex Padilla on the street, most of you wouldn't know who he was. If you saw most United States senators, most United States congressmen and women and the one or two that are mixed up as to which one they are, on a street, you would not know who these people are. Some of them you might recognize. Most of them, you wouldn't have a clue. They have these little, in fact, even in the capital of the United States, they wear these little buttons that only Congress people get or whatever, so that they can access the Senate elevators and no one mistakes them. Occasionally, someone on the Capitol grounds mistakes or doesn't recognize a congressman. That's caused some kerfuffles in the past for some of them that think everybody should know who they are because they're so important. So here you are, you're protecting the DHS secretary in a volatile situation. Some guy barges in the room, he's clearly not pressed, and he starts agitating. What are they supposed to do? It could be a threat on the DHS secretary or the other personnel, so they drag him out. Okay, Chuck U. Schumer apparently heard about it pretty quickly back in Washington, D.C. Didn't take long, cut 21. And all of a sudden, ordinary business was going on. The Democrats trying to see how they can ruin the country, what further steps they can take to make your life miserable on the Senate floor. And then we got this from Chuck U. Schumer.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I just saw something that sickened my stomach. The manhandling of a United States senator. We need immediate answers to what the hell went on. I yield the floor.
Well, you're getting answers here, Senator. He interrupted. He tried to go ghetto during a presser. They didn't know who he was, apparently. And I'm Senator Butler. Anybody can say they're anybody. You interrupt a presser. You try to do this, and who knows whether he's a threat or not. Even on CNN, I think they were a little questioning. Cut 24. Carlos, this is what happened on the CNN panel shortly after all this happened.
Quite that way.
We just received a statement from the office of Senator Padilla, and they say that he's currently in Los Angeles exercising his duty to perform congressional oversight of the federal government's operations in Los Angeles across California. It goes on to say that he tried to ask the secretary a question and was forcibly removed by federal agents, forced to the ground and handcuffed. He is not currently detained, and we are working to get additional information. David, over and over, we've heard from voters in different parts of the country talking about how they want to see Democrats confront the administration on some of these issues like immigration. I mean, it gets handsy, but Padilla was trying to make a statement there.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, she was holding a press conference and doing a press statement. He's not a member of the press. It wasn't like a hearing where it was an open forum for senators to ask a question. He clearly showed up to a public event to create a moment and do what you're saying, sort of show his constituents, not just Democrats, but that he's fighting from his perspective. Again, I think the question is, was this the appropriate response of how it got dealt with in that moment and how that plays? To your point, though, I mean, what we're seeing politically is a very divided country over the support and opposition. It's almost evenly divided in a Washington Post poll.
Yeah, that's enough. That's enough. That's enough. We got it. Yeah, whatever. Now, Padilla came out, and he has made a statement. He has now spoken to the press. And here is, ladies and gentlemen, is the showboating senator from California who ended up eating some dust on the floor this afternoon. Well, this morning out there. Well, no, it should be early afternoon. Senator Padilla.
Senator Alex Padilla. You guys have some questions. I'm going to read a brief statement. I will not be taking questions, but allow me to read.
I will not be taking questions. No.
I'm here in Los Angeles today, and I was here in the federal building, in the conference room, awaiting a scheduled briefing from federal officials as part of my responsibility as a senator to provide oversight and accountability. While I was waiting for the briefing with General Guillot, I learned that Secretary Noem was having a press conference a couple of doors down the hall. Since the beginning of the year, but especially over the course of the last over the course of recent weeks, several of my colleagues, have been asking the Department of Homeland Security for more information and more answers on their increasingly extreme immigration enforcement actions. And we've gotten little to no information in response to our inquiries. And so I came to the press conference to hear what she had to say, to see if I could learn any new additional information. And at one point, I had a question. And let me emphasize, just as we've emphasized the right for people to peacefully protest and to stand up for their First Amendment rights, for our fundamental rights. I was there peacefully. At one point, I had a question. And so I began to ask a question. I was almost immediately forcibly removed from the room. I was forced to the ground, and I was handcuffed. I was not arrested. I was not detained. I will say this. If this is how this administration responds to a senator with a question, if this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers out in the Los Angeles community and throughout California and throughout the country.
Ladies and gentlemen, I dare anybody in this vast and ever-growing listening audience to march your asses to Washington, D.C., walk in on the United States Senate floor to ask your elected representatives a question while they're doing business and see what happens to you. When Senator Padilla is holding the floor of the Senate, there is not a person from the executive branch that's going to go in there and disrupt the Senate. This was a press conference. He already said there was a briefing afterwards. He had plenty of time to ask questions. This is bullshit. It's a stunt. And he got busted in his stunt, and now he's going to sit up and start crying at the end. You can't go and interrupt senators while they're on the floor of the Senate making their speeches. You can't go in the middle of a press conference, you, the average American citizen that should have plenty of questions from these people, and go ask your question and disrupt events. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was bringing the California ghetto to the press conference, this ghetto stunt, and he got busted doing it. I have plenty of sympathy and compassion, but I'm all out for these stunts. I'm so sick of these Democrats with their garbage. I don't know what to do some days. Anyway, we got to take a quick break. That's unbelievable. And then he's going to whine and play the victim and give us tears. If they would do this to a United States senator, imagine what they'll do. James Golden. Snerdley. America's fastest hour in media is on. Stay with us.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Mic check. 1, 2. Are we recording? Hi, I'm Michelle Bernstein, an award-winning chef, restaurateur, and mom. I have a lot on my plate, including my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. That's why I was prescribed Cosentyx. It helps me move better.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for people 2 years of age and older with active psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentyx.
Americans love using their credit cards, the most secure and hassle-free way to pay. But D.C. politicians want to change that with the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. This bill lets corporate megastores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. Corporate megastores will make more money, and you pay the price. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com.
This is an ad by Regain Couples Therapy. Let's be honest. Loving your partner doesn't mean you always like them, and guess what? That's normal. Regain, powered by BetterHelp, offers couples therapy that's flexible, affordable, and 100% online. Whether you're reconnecting or working through conflict, Regain is here to support you both. See why people wish they'd tried couples therapy sooner. Visit regain.com/couplespod to get 10% off your first month. That's regain.com/couplespod.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
No Kings protests planned across the country on Saturday as well. What are your thoughts on those?
What do they call? No Kings?
No Kings.
I don't feel like a king. I have to go through hell to get stuff approved. A king would say, I'm not going to get this. A king would have never had the California mandate to even be talking to him. He wouldn't have to call up Mike Johnson and Thune and say, fellas, you got to pull this off, and after years we get it done. No, we're not a king. We're not a king at all. Thank you very much.
I love him using the royal we. We're not a king. Oh, President Trump. Speaking of protests, I mentioned to you that there are all kind of protests. The South Carolina Attorney General has come out and stated what people can expect in South Carolina. No, Carlos, I don't have that. We do have Florida, though. We have the Florida sheriff. Folks, I think we may have just found America's new favorite sheriff here. His name is Wayne Ivey, and he is the sheriff of Brevard County in Florida. And you can see all kind of people are getting ready. This is going to be a big weekend for protests. They're trying to disrupt the left, trying to disrupt the entire country. The Walmart, one of the Walmart heirs, Christy Walton, has gotten involved with it too. But anyway, this is this is the sheriff of Brevard County, cut 20, and his warning to protesters.
So I'm gonna break it down for you, all right? And if somebody wants to know what I mean by turn violent, all right, this is what I mean. If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail. Let me be very clear about that. If you block an intersection or a roadway in Brevard County, you are going to jail. If you flee arrest, you're going to go to jail tired, because we are going to run you down and put you in jail. If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over and dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail, and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead. We're not going to play. This has got to stop. You're watching what's taking place out there. You're seeing police officers.
Yeah, that's the way to deal with it. Fastest hour in American media continues. Do not go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Imagine this. The best pasta sauce you have ever tasted sits abandoned on a plate. Wasted sauce. That is a tragedy. If only you had used Barilla al Bronzo pasta. Its bronze-cut texture holds your sauce and scoops up every last drop. The Italians call that scarpetta. Capture sauce the Italian way. Barilla al Bronzo. Click or tap the banner to find out more.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Stand-ups ago, when I talked about what terrorism looks like. This is it. There should be no question to what our country would look like had the Confederacy won. We're seeing it on full display.
That is Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who, by the way, is out right now urging people to resist ICE raids in his city. I hope he will be called to account if there is violence in that city. Now, he did say peaceful, I need to be honest, but he's still demanding that people resist. And you know how some people on the left, he's part of the Confederacy. He's part of and Pritzker got it taken to him today. My friends, we have so many sound bites. I wish I could get them all. From what happened at the hearings today with these sanctuary governors, 3 of them, Walz, Hochul, and the other one. Walz, Hochul, and Pritzker from Illinois. It was delicious. And ladies, if you happen to be a constituent of Elise Stefanik, please, I don't think I've ever asked anybody to do this ever before. But if you are on social media, you have anyway, please congratulate Elise Stefanik. Elise Stefanik took it to Kathy Hochul like nobody has ever taken it to Kathy Hochul before. Elise Stefanik, you won the gold. We have it. Music, yes. Gary Glitter in the pre-Pato, before it was known about the Pato stuff. Oasis on this day in 1999 paid Glitter almost $340,000 as an out-of-court settlement after they used one of his lyrics in the song Hello, not this one. It's been so long. Gary Glitter, I mean, they used to hear that song all around, but it's been kind of banned ever since the whole Pato thing broke. People just like, I don't want to play Gary Glitter anymore.
No, it was 4 years ago in the first Joker movie that got the Oscar for Best Supporting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was in that scene. He was going down the stairs.
It's that dancing scene. That dancing scene that everyone, wow, yeah, good. Yeah, you do. All right. We talked about Elise Stefanik. I guess we need to just let it, folks, we can't play it all. If you have popcorn, this would be a good time to just sit for a moment, pull out some popcorn, and we'll play as much of it as we can. Cut to Elise Stefanik today at the hearing with New York Governess Kathy Hochul.
Recognizes Ms. Stefanik from New York.
Thank you. Governor Hochul, on your first day in office, you signed Executive Order 1. Is that correct?
I believe it is.
And you extended this executive order not once, not twice, but 3 times, most recently January 16th of this year. Is that correct?
If that's what your facts show, I signed countless executive orders.
I would assume you'd know it's Executive Order 1. And this is a continuation of your predecessor's sanctuary state policies, correct? Is included in that.
I want to be sure we are defining sanctuary state properly.
I'll define it for you. It is the policy of the state that state officers or employees shall not disclose information to federal immigration authorities for the purpose of federal civil immigration enforcement. It goes on to say law enforcement officers may not use resources, equipment, or personnel for the purpose of detecting and apprehending any individual suspected or wanted for violating a civil immigration office. Law enforcement officers have no authority in the state of New York to take any policy action solely because the person is an undocumented alien. That's a quote in your executive orders that you extended. Now, do you know who Sakir Akan is?
I want to get back to the first part.
No, I'm asking a question. Do you know who Sakir Akan is?
I want to make sure you understand that this simply says that we will cooperate with ICE.
No, it does not say that. I read what it says, and let me talk to you about the results. Do you know who Sakir Akan is? You should, as the governor of New York State. Do you know?
Refresh my recollection.
He was an illegal migrant in New York. And do you know what crime he committed in addition to being here illegally?
No, I do not.
You do not. This was widely reported. He found a 15-year-old girl, threatened her with a metal pole, told her to get into the back seat of his car, he took her clothes off, and he violently raped her in Albany, New York. Do you know who Sebastian Zepeda Khalil is?
I'm sure you'll tell me there's many cases, whether they're
These are high-profile cases. Yes. New Yorkers know about them, and you don't. So let's talk about Sebastian Zepeda Khalil. Do you know who that is?
I don't have the specific details at my disposal, no.
Well, this is an illegal migrant in New York because of your sanctuary state policies. Do you know what crime he committed?
I'm not familiar at this moment.
I bet you're going to be familiar when I remind you. He found a sleeping woman on the subway, lit her on fire, and burned her alive. This is in Kathy Hochul's New York. And as I'm sure you are aware, and I'll remind you, that ICE issued an order to detain this violent criminal, but that was rejected by New York officials due to sanctuary state laws. Now, do you know who Raymond Rojas Basilio is?
I just want to say this. These crimes are horrific.
Because of your sanctuary state policies.
In all of these cases, we would work with ICE to remove them.
You did not in this case. They are walking on the streets because of your policies and your executive order that you signed 3 times. Now, Raymond Rojas Basilio, do you know who that is?
I'm telling you this. I will explain to you the policies of New York. We cooperate with. I know you're just trying to.
You do not. Specifically, ICE was told not to detain this individual, and he burned a woman alive on the New York subways in Kathy Hochul's New York. So I will keep on going. What about Raymond Rojas Basilio? Do you know who that is?
I'm going to tell you our overall policy, which will address all this.
I'll tell you who that is. He is an illegal who molested an 11-year-old in our state because, again, of your sanctuary state policies. This illegal was shielded from federal immigration enforcement and able to commit this heinous crime. And what about Wilson Castillo-Diaz? Do you know who that is?
I'm telling you this. We do cooperate fully with ICE in criminal prosecution. Our sanctuary
You're not advocating for these victims.
Only deal
this
with
is a 5-year-old who was raped on Long
enforcement.
Island in Nassau County. You are not advocating on behalf of these victims. You are shielding illegals. Even in your opening statement, you prioritize putting illegals first.
That is not
Rapes
true.
of young girls, beatings of NYPD cops by illegals who are here under Kathy Hochul's failed policies, burning New Yorkers alive. This is Kathy Hochul's New York. It's one of the many reasons why you're hemorrhaging support from hardworking New York families.
These are horrific crimes, and they're heartbreaking.
They're horrific crimes that are committed on your watch. You signed this executive order on your first day in office. You signed it again and again this January. We deserve a governor who stands up for law-abiding New Yorkers, doesn't put illegals first, but actually puts New Yorkers first. I appreciate
Rather than going after the viral moment, I suggest you look at the facts.
I'm standing up for New Yorkers. No. Rather than addressing the illegals in New York, you are prioritizing your far-left sanctuary state policies, which you put in place with executive orders. Instead of advocating for victims, a 5-year-old who was raped,
with ICE.
you did not. They were released because of sanctuary state policies in New York State. No amount of words is going to clean up your failed record and these horrific crimes committed in sanctuary state that you created. And with that, I yield back.
Your representation, the facts.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that was yes. Yes. And for those of you who are supportive of Elise Stefanik's efforts today to call these people out, these governors, to their faces, if you want, I'm sure she would welcome words of encouragement. Our good friend, Jim Jordan also went after, that's the next cut. We don't have time for all this because we got to get to some other stuff. I'm going to hold the Jim Jordan one until Saturday. We talked to Jim Jordan yesterday. Byron Donalds, cut number 6 with Tim Walz, and Walz took a beating too. I got a 5-minute cut. We can't play it with the senator from his state, Tom Emmer, ripped him. But this is Byron Donalds on the House committee today with Tim Walz.
You said earlier that the ICE agents under the orders of President Trump are a modern-day Gestapo. Do you realize how disgusting a phrase that is, considering the history of Nazi Germany? Would you like to recant that statement?
What I said, Congressman, and I have a long history of supporting law enforcement, I said President Trump was using them as his modern-day Gestapo, not identifying who you are, coming up in unmarked vans, taking people away and giving...
Is it the responsibility of ICE to actually deport illegal aliens in the United States who are here? Isn't that their responsibility?
Yes, it is, Congressman, except that the Constitution is not an inconvenience. It's not an either-or.
Nobody
You
said
can
an
do your
inconvenience.
job and
He have a
practice the
responsibility to deport illegal aliens, and the
Through due
president is
process.
going through that process right now.
We are
And
not
let's be very clear, the previous administration, they abused every process there is under border laws to allow more than 10 million people into the country illegally. And this is a burden on all Americans. And so the president is doing his job. So it is sick to refer to Americans who are ICE agents as Gestapo. Governor, you're wrong. You need to apologize to these agents. They're doing their jobs. They are Americans. They serve this country with honor and decency and respect. Do not diminish their work simply because you tried to make a cheap point that you could tweet. I yield back.
Chair. Boom. And yes, and my friends, Pritzker got into it. We have Brandon Gill. I didn't put that in today. We got to get that. Brandon Gill took him apart. These Democrat governors, what happened today, some of the best work I have seen out of members of Congress dealing with Democrats. Now, some of the Democrats on the panel had some interesting things to say, too. Representative Melaine Stansberry, I forget where she's from. Anyway, Stansberry had this to say, cut 10, when her time was available.
And I want to take a moment to speak directly to the immigrant community who might be watching and listening today. I want to say to everyone out there who is living in fear, we see you, we love you, we respect you, and we are fighting for you and every community that is being targeted by this administration and this Congress. We also want all of you out there to know that you have rights. You are protected by the law, and you should not have to live in fear and wonder whether or not you're going to be safe if you leave your home or if your family is going to come home at night. We see you. We are fighting for you. You have rights. Now, let's turn to the stand. I want to...
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, Kilmar and all of you illegal immigrants who have done murdering, butchering, maiming, drug peddling, human trafficking, everything else. Of course, that is not all immigrants, and I'm not saying it is. But to those of you, since she makes no differentiation, I just want to make it clear to every illegal, regardless of whether you are a criminal or not. She loves you, she respects you, and she's sorry that you're being targeted for law enforcement action, even though you're a predator and you don't belong in this country, and she sees you, and she feels at one with you. We also have California, a representative who was on CNN. I think even the CNN host was like dismayed by what came out of this one's mouth. Her name is Sydney Camilleri Dove. And this is what she had to say, interviewed on Cut 14 on CNN. This is what Representative Dove had to say.
A lot of polls that are all over the place. I would argue that this is not an immigration policy that we're seeing unfold. This is domestic terrorism. Yes, actually, last term there was a bipartisan piece of immigration reform legislation that Donald Trump asked Republicans to kill because he didn't want Biden to sign it. We know that Americans support immigration reform. We know that Democrats support immigration reform, but they do not support ICE raids like this happening
Can I just
in communities.
Follow up with you? You said this is domestic terrorism. Can you just tell me what exactly you mean? Are you saying the ICE raids are domestic terrorism?
So what I'm saying is when you have grandmothers taking young children to church or to the grocery store or to a little Korean market like the one that was in my district that was raided, and all of a sudden you see masked individuals with no identification, producing no judicial warrants that have names on it, asking no questions, snatching people, putting them in a van, carting them off, detaining them, not informing their parents or family members, not even allowing Congress members to go in and check and make sure that everything is okay, and then deporting them, you have a real problem. We have 9-year-old children being that, yes, I would argue that you are terrorizing communities. Los Angeles does not feel safe. You have ICE agents walking down the street, actually knocking on doors and pulling people out of their homes. They are not identifying themselves. They are not, following the law. They are not providing identification. They are not providing
They're not
warrants.
identifying themselves.
That is a problem because that
so
is
that we
not
can
due
go and dox them. Enough of her, please.
All right.
They're not identifying themselves, so we can go and dox them and harass their families. They are domestic terrorists. This is today's Democrat Party. By the way, there are warrants. And that was made clear today with Kristi Noem. Every one of these has judicial warrants okaying the action. So, you're a domestic terrorist? No, they're not domestic. She's accusing, so you got Tim Walz, members and governors, accused ICE agents of being the Gestapo. You have this congresswoman, they're domestic terrorists. Meanwhile, the people that are out committing terrorism on the streets are the ones that get the Democrat Party support. Before we go, we had America's new favorite sheriff, and he was explaining something, and he mentioned in his course of what would happen to you if you do things in Brevard County. He mentioned if you gang mobbed a car, that you're likely to get run over. And I know people that say, what? Well, I want to just clear that up really quick. Princess Diana's favorite governor of all. I mean, I understand now, when I heard this, I understand why Princess Diana loves this guy so much. Ron DeSantis very quickly explained what the sheriff was talking about. He was asked about it too. That's cut 15. And this is Ron DeSantis.
And we also have a policy that if you're driving on one of those streets and a mob comes and surrounds your vehicle and threatens you, you have a right to flee for your safety. And so if you drive off and you hit one of these people, that's their fault for impinging on you. You don't have to sit there and just be a sitting duck and let the mob grab you out of your car and drag you through the streets. You have a right to defend yourself in Florida.
Like I said, no wonder Diana loves him so much. James Golden, Snerdley, fastest hour in American media continues. Don't go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I hadn't heard that term before. Hey, Carlos, I just got a text from Princess Di. She says she's a huge DeSantite. I didn't know that they even had the DeSantites. That's pretty cool, huh? From Governor DeSantis supporter, yeah. A DeSantite. Yeah, awesome. What you're hearing, ladies and gentlemen, that beautiful instrument that's playing in the background is the American jazz pianist, electric keyboardist, composer Chick Corea, whose birthday is today, heavenly birthday. He passed away in 2021, 79 years old. Chick Corea is up there in the music elite class, and I mean elite in a good way. The rarefied air when you get to play with musicians like Chick Corea. Those of you remember, those of you that like fusion, should remember the group, of course, Return to Forever, one of the leaders. You had groups like Mahavishnu Orchestra, so many. Billy Cobham did some great work then. But you had Chick Corea, and they were certainly in the vanguard. Chick Corea, Return to Forever. Stanley Clarke, Lenny White, Al Di Meola. We love Al Di Meola here. And, of course, the incredible Chick Corea. So happy birthday to Chick Corea. Folks, we are saving some sound bites for Saturday. We have some we're going to have to play tomorrow. Democrats are losing their minds. We got to go, though. May God bless, protect each and every single one of you, your family, your loved ones. Love and gratitude for your being here with me and, of course, for allowing me to be with you. God willing, back tomorrow. Until then, bid you adieu. Bye.